Hey there, www.andrewmarkmusic.com, late night in the van again. And I wanted to comment on a comment that I made in my last video about Chief Ironbush in my Gnostic Gish Galloping video. So I made 2 points there, caveats that I recommended that he's worth listening to, and I think he is, and I'm going to go into that here. But I had two caveats about one, physics, the shape of the Earth, and two, cosmology, and specifically within the Gnostic Orb, what is this place? Who created it? Is it made by Sophia, Zoe, Barbello, or is it made by Yaldabaoth? And I sit in the it's made by Yaldabaoth camp. Now, this is all speculative, so I'm not going to treat it as anything other than that. But he's tending to say there's tending to be a contradiction in what he's saying. Because if this place is made by the Pleroma, then I don't see why it has to go bang every 12,000 years. Okay, I'm just going to put the 12,000 years out there. The great cycle of what he's talking about here is the great reset. You know, within this Gnostic Orb. So to me, in my thinking, if he's right that this goes through some kind of reset, a la Graham Hancock and, all kinds of theorists out there, then to me that's more canonic if we understood this place as the Kanoma within Gnostic theology, or in the Vedas, Prakriti. I've said in my writings that this place likely does go through cycles of deconstruction and construction. But that's because it's the Kanoma. That's because it's Prakriti, And obviously, when something goes bang and destroys the earth, this is not good. This is not a good thing. So how can it be of the Pleroma? Right? The Pleroma is good. It doesn't go bang, and kill everything to do a reset. What does do that is, read the Anurag Cigar by Kabir. That's Cal the Demiurge. Now, we could speculate about why Cal the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth, does this. My first guess would be there just comes a point where there's just too much truth happening. There's just something that triggers it, So yeah, I'm not arguing against that we're a species with amnesia, traumatized by this reset. I think that's accurate, but that doesn't necessarily mean the physics of what he's saying, is accurate. I remain agnostic on it. Now, there's a guy, 2016-17, he had a website called suddenreality.com, probably still up there. Apparently he died. He was from BC like I am, BC boy. And I think his handle was Vindicated. And Chief Ironbush is proposing or positing a physics cosmology very, very similar to Vindicated, where from what I can get from it, it's like this infinite flat plane with, all kinds of terrariums, domes, being experimented on with life, different aspects, sort of like a flat Earth multiverse. That's basically the cosmology he's putting out there. Although specifically in this video, he just capped it to this place and another one. But now, early on, like I'm a kid here, I'm 26 years old, 27, I'd been introduced to the Bible, when I was 23, 24, I read it all, rejected it. But one of the things early on that I found out, this is pre-internet, and this is probably, I'm 27, is that the word in Hebrew in the Torah for God created the earth, heavens and the earth, was, and I knew this in the 80s, that it was recreate. The word is actually recreate, so reset. So, I mean, I agree with him. That's what, that's the general idea of what the Torah is saying. And, what I've said about the flat earth is that it's not consistent with an all-good, all-loving God. Because if you can't even settle a dispute about flat and round, you're not omni-anything. You're just plain out apathetic and do not care what humans think about anything. That even two people are disputing the shape of the earth means that that an all-loving, all-good God, all-knowing, all-loving God, it refutes that. And here we are in the 2025 with millions of people disputing physics and the shape of the earth. So this is not at all consistent. It doesn't jive. It's not harmonious with all-loving, all-knowing God, who apparently can't get across to humanity the difference between a pancake and a ball. Something I can do with a 3-year-old within a week. Now, what I will say is generally, the cosmology that's proposed in the Torah does lean towards a flat earth cosmology, but it's not clear. It's not 100% obvious. Yahweh didn't make it clear and obvious like an all-loving, all-knowing God should, that it's a pancake and not a ball. So it's, and the proof of this is that it's still in dispute in 2025. So now so there's some of the points that I bring up, but he says a lot, and a lot of the things he says, especially when it comes to the JQ and the Hebrews, I think he nails most of it. But I did hear him doing something I hear very, very many people doing, and that's repeating, say, the story of Solomon like it's real, like it really happened, like it's factual. What I call this Hebrew word magic, where if you who does this all the time is Adam Green, is just complete, always speaking the words like that it was actually something factual, when in fact, as far as my life and what research goes, if we're looking for Solomon is a fictional character, as is King David, as is Moses. These are fictional characters, probably created during the Babylonian times, 500 years before Christ. So if you're asking me where did they get the narratives for these stories, maybe not word for word, but who were the people that had a life story similar to Solomon? And that's Amenhotep III, the great pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. His great grandfather, I think, would be David. That's the great warrior king, Tutmosis III, and we all know Akhenaten was likely the template for Moses. So how does Chief Ironbush not know this? How does he not know that Solomon is fictional? And if he's going to repeat the story of Solomon literally like it happened, and he's using it just as a figure of speech to teach, then he should clarify that this was fiction. The narrative of Solomon is a fiction. It's a narrative fiction, right? If he's going to go that route. But he didn't do that. He repeated the Solomon story like it's real factual history, and I shake my head at that. I just how can you declare yourself to be that kind of level of spiritual teacher and not even get something basic like that down? So, but I mean, like I said, this guy says a lot, and there's a lot surrounding the JQ that I think he's absolutely right on. But there's someone like Miles Mathis who I think nails it too, and his basic, to just distill Miles Mathis on this point, he's saying that they've been ruling for millennia via stealth, all their royal lines. They're not the victims that they, that's a ploy, that's a propaganda ploy, so that you can't criticize them. There's definitely a problem there, but if you go into where I really really agree with him is about the Great Mother, and I think he's an expert on this. What I call, as a Sethian Gnostic, Barbello, and Barbello birthed the Son, so he's the Son of Man. This is what I call the Aeon Christ, the living Aeon Christ of truth and wisdom. So he's the spirit of truth and wisdom. This is the Christ of the Pleroma, who in some way had a visitation here 2,000 years ago. Although I have a unique take on that, because the Torah is loaded with fiction. So how much fiction did they write about this character? How much of it was made up to serve their agenda of this Yaldabaoth Torah God? And I would say a lot. So we haven't got the truth about the Pleromic Christ in the New Testament. I think he knows this. I think this what I'm saying here wouldn't be that much of a surprise to him. But I totally agree with that, and it looks like the Anu. He describes them as the Anu. I describe them as the Archons, the planetary Archons, because I'm a Sethian Gnostic, right? And Sethian Gnosticism doesn't have anything to do with being Jewish or the Torah. It has to do with the Ecclesiasta, the church that Barbello made. That came after the first Adamus. To say that a Sethian Gnostic has anything to do with a bloodline in this era on Earth is just absurd. I mean, this we're going back far into another cosmic age, in another place called the Pleroma, where the Sethian Church, the Ecclesiastica, came into existence through Barbello and Christ, and so it has absolutely nothing to do with the Torah. And the Apocrypha of John makes it clear that the nouns Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel are not represented accurately in the Torah. What's written in the Torah about those names is fictional. So that's where I'm coming from with it. The Sethian Gnostic view of this. I think I've pretty well covered what I wanted to say here. I mean, one does have to use their own spiritual intuition. One does have to do their own research, come to their own conclusions. I just don't see how this reset, if it's true, and it's looking to me that it is likely true. I just can't see that it's of the Pleroma. This is my take on it as a Sethian Gnostic, that it's the constant recycling that happens within the Kanoma Prakriti, right? This is Yaldabaoth. This is doing it. So this goes into our disagreement about what this place is, who created it. He seems to think it's of Sophia Barbello, and I think it's of Yaldabaoth. And I think my take on it is more coherent for the reason I said earlier, because if his take on it is that this place is good, but we all have to be blown to smithereens and traumatized consistently through resets. And that's, to me, is incoherent. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. To me, what's coherent and makes sense and is logical is that this place is being blown up because this is just what the Archons do until such a time as the Pleroma wants to end this place. But as on that issue, I've said that loving parents don't kill their psychopathic child. This place is in quarantine. I think he would more or less agree with that. From all the behavior going on from these folks today, the not so white hats, it doesn't look like they're willing to learn anything. They just never get that Christ does not use violence, right? That God does not use violence. They just don't understand it. They're just violent. They just adhere to violence. All their holidays are about violence and conquests. And I'm talking about the religious component of these people, right? How can you just not get it? Century after century after century after century. Like, there's definitely something going on here. This isn't just some kind of minor, aberration, fluke. No, this is serious business. This is all about what life is about and who's got it right and who's got it wrong. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify and give my thoughts on why I would, say somebody is worth your time to listen to, and I wanted to be clear about what I think is worthwhile listening to Chief Ironbush, and where I have my own disagreements and areas where, I'm agnostic. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it's interesting times. So I'll leave it at that. That's really the point I wanted to make. Edgemark Music. Ciao.